Picture this scenario. You just got the promotion you've been working toward for 2 years. Your salary jumped from $65,000 to $85,000. That's an extra $20,000 a year, about $1,200 more per month after taxes. You're sitting at your desk, doing the math, feeling that rush of excitement. Finally, you think. Finally, you can start saving real money. Build that emergency fund. Max out your 401k. Maybe even start investing. You've made it. Fast forward 6 months. You're lying in bed at 2 a.m., staring at your phone, looking at your bank account. Somehow you have less money now than you did before the raise, actually less. Your checking account balance is lower, your credit card balance is higher. You're making $20,000 more per year and you're more broke than you were when you were making less. How is that even possible? Where did the money go? You didn't buy anything crazy, you didn't make any major purchases. The money just disappeared. Here's what's going to blow your mind. This isn't an accident. This is how the system is designed to work. Every raise you get, every promotion, every bonus, it all gets absorbed by lifestyle inflation so automatically, so invisibly, that you don't even notice it happening. You're making more money, but you're not getting ahead. You're just running faster on the same treadmill, and the treadmill is getting more expensive. My name is Rob, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, psychology, and why people who make 6 figures can feel just as broke as people who make 30,000. If you've ever gotten a raise and wondered why it didn't actually improve your life, or if you've ever looked at your increased salary and thought, where is all this money going? Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you want to understand why making more money might be the thing that's keeping you poor. Now, before we dive into the mechanics of how this happens, let me ask you something. Think back to when you were making less money. Maybe it was your first job out of college or your first real adult job. You were probably making $35,000, maybe $45,000, and you were getting by. You had an apartment, you had food, you had a social life. You weren't rich, but you were managing. Now think about how much you're making today. Maybe it's doubled, maybe it's tripled. You're making significantly more money than that younger version of yourself. So here's the question. Do you feel twice as wealthy? 3 times as wealthy? Or do you feel basically the same level of financial stress, just with the nicer stuff? Because if you're like most people, the answer is that you feel the same. You're making way more money, but you don't feel wealthier. You just have a nicer car that you're still making payments on, and a bigger apartment that still takes too much of your paycheck, and fancier restaurants that you still put on credit cards. The money changed, the stress didn't. This is the lifestyle inflation trap, and it's destroying your ability to build wealth faster than almost anything else. Because here's the thing about lifestyle inflation. It doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like progress. It feels like you're finally living the life you deserve. You worked hard for that raise. You earned that promotion. You should be able to enjoy it, right? Upgrade your apartment, get a nicer car, eat at better restaurants. You've earned it, except you haven't actually earned anything. You've just rented a more expensive version of the same life. Let me show you exactly how this plays out in real numbers, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. Let's say you're making $65,000 a year. After taxes, that's about $4,100 per month. Your expenses have settled into a comfortable pattern. Rent is $1,500 for a decent 1-bedroom. Car payment on your reliable Civic is $320. Insurance, phone, utilities, subscriptions, all the regular stuff comes to about $800. Food and going out, maybe $700. You're spending $3,320 per month, and you've got about $780 left over. That should be going to savings, but somehow it never quite makes it there. It goes to random stuff, small purchases, things you don't even remember, but still, you're basically breaking even every month. Then you get the promotion, $85,000. You're bringing home $5,300 now. That's $1,200 more per month. And here's where the trap sets in, because what happens next feels completely natural. You don't sit down and consciously decide to blow the money. You make a series of reasonable decisions that each make perfect sense. Your lease is up in 2 months, and you've been in that one bedroom for 3 years. It's feeling cramped. You're making more money now, you can afford something nicer. You find a great 2-bedroom in a better building. It's $2,100 a month, which is $600 more than your current place, but you're making $1,200 more so you can easily afford it. It's a nice upgrade. You deserve it. That decision feels completely justified. Your Civic has 95,000 miles on it. It's still running fine, but you're worried about reliability. Plus, you're in a more senior role at work now, and showing up in a beat-up Civic doesn't really fit the image. You traded in for a nice Mazda CX-5. The payment is $485, which is $165 more than your old payment, but again, you're making more money. It's a reasonable upgrade, nothing crazy, just something more appropriate for your new position. You start eating out more because you're busier with work and you can afford it now. Instead of $700 a month, you're spending $950. That's only $250 more, and you're working harder. You deserve to eat well. You upgrade your gym membership to the nicer place with the pool and sauna. That's $60 more per month. You get a few new outfits for work because your wardrobe was looking dated. You finally subscribe to that premium streaming service you've been wanting. You book a slightly nicer vacation this year because you can actually afford it now. None of these decisions individually seem unreasonable. You're not buying a Ferrari. You're not moving into a penthouse. You're just making small, logical upgrades to match your new income level. But let's add it up. Rent went up $600. Car payment went up $165. Food went up $250. Gym, streaming, nicer clothes, better vacation, all of it adds up to another $200 per month. You're now spending $1,215 more per month than you were before the raise. You got a $1,200 raise. You increased your spending by $1,215. You're now $15 poorer per month than you were before the promotion. And you have no idea how it happened because every single decision made sense at the time. This is lifestyle inflation, and this exact scenario is playing out in millions of lives right now. People are getting raises and getting poorer, and they can't figure out why. Here's what makes this particularly insidious. Your brain doesn't process this $1,200 raise as extra money. It processes it as money you should have been making all along. There's a psychological phenomenon called the reference point shift, where the moment you get the raise, your brain resets what it considers normal. $85,000 becomes your new baseline, not a bonus on top of $65,000. So spending an extra $1,200 per month doesn't feel like lifestyle inflation. It feels like you're maintaining the same standard of living, just calibrated to your new correct salary. And there's another layer to this that nobody talks about. The upgrades you make aren't just about the money, they're about identity. When you get promoted, you don't just get more money. You get a new image of yourself. You're a senior analyst now, or a manager, or a director, and that new identity comes with unspoken requirements. Someone in your new position shouldn't be driving a beat-up Civic. Someone at your level should live in a nicer neighborhood. These aren't rules written anywhere, but you feel them. And your brain uses the extra money to bring your external life into alignment with your new internal identity. Here's a stat that's going to mess with your head. A study from the Federal Reserve found that people who received a 10% raise increased their spending by 10% within 6 months. Not some of the raise, not half of the raise, all of it. The entire raise got absorbed by lifestyle upgrades, and these weren't financially illiterate people. These were college-educated professionals who understood budgeting. They still couldn't help themselves. The money came in and the money went out, automatically, like a law of physics. But it gets worse, because lifestyle inflation isn't just about where your money goes, it's about where you can't go. Every upgrade you make is a lock on a door. You move to the nicer apartment and now you can't take a pay cut to pursue a different career. You're locked in. You upgrade your car, and now you can't afford to go back to school because the payment doesn't stop. You're locked in. You increase your baseline spending, and now you can't take risks, can't make changes, can't choose opportunities over paychecks. You're locked in. I know someone who got promoted to a VP position at a tech company. Their salary went from $120,000 to $180,000. That's a massive raise, $60,000 more per year. They were so excited. They immediately bought a house in a better school district, $650,000 with a mortgage of $4,200 a month. They traded in their car for a Tesla, $920 a month. They put their kids in private school, $2,400 a month. They hired a cleaning service, upgraded their whole lifestyle to match their new income. 2 years later, the company had layoffs. They were offered a severance package, or they could take a demotion back to their old role at their old salary. They had to take the severance because they literally couldn't afford to go back to $120,000. The house, the car, the school, all of it required the higher salary. They'd locked themselves into needing $180,000 just to maintain their life, and when that income disappeared, everything collapsed. They had to sell the house at a loss, got crushed on the Tesla trade-in, pulled their kids from private school. The lifestyle they'd built for 2 years took 6 months to dismantle, and it was devastating. That's the real cost of lifestyle inflation. It's not just the money you spend. It's the freedom you lose. Every dollar you add to your baseline expenses is a dollar you need to earn every month for the rest of your life, or until you can afford to downgrade, which psychologically feels impossible. You've built a lifestyle that requires a specific income to maintain, and now you're trapped in jobs you might not like, in careers you might want to leave because you can't afford your life on anything less. Now let's talk about something researchers call the hedonic treadmill, because this is where the psychology gets really dark. Your brain has a baseline level of happiness, and it's very good at adapting to new circumstances and returning to that baseline. When you get a raise and upgrade your lifestyle, you get a temporary happiness boost. For a few weeks, maybe a few months, you feel great. The new apartment is exciting. The new car is thrilling. The better restaurants are satisfying. But then something happens. Your brain adapts. The new apartment becomes just your apartment. The new car becomes just your car. The novelty wears off, and your happiness level returns to exactly where it was before. Except now you're spending $1,200 more per month. You've increased your expenses permanently, but the happiness increase was temporary. You've ratcheted up your cost of living without ratcheting up your actual life satisfaction. And the only way to get that happiness boost again is to upgrade again, which requires another raise, which leads to more lifestyle inflation, which leads to more adaptation. You're on a treadmill running faster and faster, never actually getting anywhere. There's research on this that's genuinely depressing. Studies have found that people who make $200,000 report basically the same level of day-to-day happiness as people who make $75,000. Not slightly more, not a little bit more. Basically the same. The difference in happiness between making $40,000 and $75,000 is significant. But after that, more money doesn't buy more happiness. It just buys more stuff that you adapt to. The person making $200,000 has a nicer house and a nicer car, but they're not happier in that house or happier driving that car. They've just normalized a more expensive baseline. And here's where it gets really twisted. Not only does lifestyle inflation not make you happier, it often makes you more stressed. Because now you need that higher income. You need to maintain your job. You need to keep getting raises. You need to keep progressing in your career. The financial pressure doesn't decrease as you make more money. It increases because you have more to lose. You're more stressed about layoffs, more stressed about performance reviews, more stressed about office politics. You've built a life that requires you to keep winning, and the consequences of not winning are worse than they were when you were making less money. I see this all the time with people who make six figures. They're making $150,000, $200,000, sometimes more, and they're stressed about money constantly. They have the nice house and the nice cars and the kids in good schools. and they're one bad quarter away from financial disaster. They have no emergency fund because all their money goes to maintaining their lifestyle. They're not saving for retirement at the rate they should be. They're just barely keeping their head above water, except the water is expensive imported sparkling water, and they're drowning in debt to afford it. Let me show you what this looks like over a career, because the long-term effects are devastating. Let's take two people. Both start at $50,000 at age 25. Both get regular raises and promotions over their career. By age 45, both are making $120,000. Person A lets lifestyle inflation happen naturally. At $50,000, they spend $40,000 and save $10,000. They get a raise to $60,000. They spend $50,000 and save $10,000. Every raise, their spending goes up proportionally. By the time they're making $120,000, they're spending $110,000 and saving $10,000. They've been saving $10,000 per year for 20 years. They have about $400,000 in investments. Person B fights lifestyle inflation. At $50,000, they spend $40,000 and save $10,000. They get a raise to $60,000, but they keep spending $40,000. Now they're saving $20,000. Every raise, they keep their spending frozen at $40,000. By the time they're making $120,000, they're still spending $40,000 and saving $80,000 per year. They've saved an average of $45,000 per year for 20 years. They have over $1.8 million in investments. Same career trajectory. Same salary progression. Person A has $400,000. Person B has $1.8 million. That's the cost of lifestyle inflation. That's what choosing to upgrade your life every time you get a raise costs you. Person A looks more successful. They have the nicer house, the nicer cars, the nicer vacations. But Person B is actually wealthy. Person B could retire right now if they wanted to. Person B has freedom. Person A has nice stuff and financial stress. And here's the kicker. Person B's quality of life isn't worse than Person A's. They're both comfortable. They both have everything they actually need. Person B just chose not to upgrade things that didn't need upgrading. They kept the car that worked fine. They stayed in the apartment that was perfectly adequate. They cooked at home instead of ordering DoorDash. Not because they were depriving themselves, but because they understood that every dollar they spent on upgrades was a dollar they couldn't invest in freedom. So how do you break this cycle? How do you stop lifestyle inflation from eating every raise you ever get? The answer is simple but psychologically brutal. You have to consciously decide that your next raise doesn't exist. When you get promoted from $65,000 to $85,000, you have to pretend you're still making $65,000. The extra $1,200 per month isn't spending money. It's investing money. It goes directly into retirement accounts, into brokerage accounts, into assets that will compound and build wealth. You don't get to touch it. You don't get to upgrade your life. Your lifestyle stays frozen at your previous income level. This is incredibly hard to do because everything in your environment is pushing you to spend. Your friends are upgrading their lives. Your coworkers at your new level have nicer cars and live in better neighborhoods. The social pressure to match their lifestyle is intense. Your own brain is telling you that you've earned these upgrades, that you deserve to enjoy your success. Every instinct you have is screaming at you to spend the money. And you have to say no. But here's what happens if you can actually do this. If you can freeze your lifestyle and invest every raise, the math becomes absurd. Most people get raises of 3% to 5% per year, with bigger jumps when they get promoted. If you invest every raise while keeping your spending flat, you're increasing your savings rate by 3% to 5% of your gross income every single year. After 10 years, you're saving 30% to 50% of your income. After 20 years, you're saving the majority of your income. And all of that money is compounding. The person who does this doesn't just become wealthy. They become financially independent. They reach a point where they don't need to work anymore. They have enough invested that they could live off the returns if they wanted to. And they get there not by making more money than everyone else, but by not spending more money than everyone else. They played a different game entirely. There's a movement of people doing exactly this. They call it financial independence, retire early, or FIRE. And the core principle is simple. Keep your expenses low, invest the difference, and let compound growth do the work. These people are retiring in their 30s and 40s not because they made millions, but because they refused to inflate their lifestyle when they started making more money. They broke the treadmill. And here's what they report about their lives. They say they don't feel deprived. They don't feel like they sacrificed. They feel free. Because while their friends were upgrading to nicer apartments and newer cars, they were building escape velocity from the entire system. They were building the ability to say no to jobs they didn't like, to employers who treated them badly, to careers that didn't fulfill them. They traded the appearance of success for actual freedom, and it turns out freedom feels better than a luxury car. Let me tell you what your life could look like if you made this choice. You get that promotion from $65,000 to $85,000. Instead of upgrading everything, you make one decision. Your lifestyle stays at $65,000. The extra $20,000 per year, that's $1,200 per month after taxes, goes straight into investments. Every month, automatically, before you can think about spending it. You keep your one-bedroom apartment. You keep driving your Civic. You keep cooking at home most nights. Your friends might wonder why you're not living larger now that you got promoted. Your family might ask why you're being so cheap when you're making good money. But you know something they don't. You're not being cheap, you're buying freedom, you're buying options, you're buying the ability to quit a job you hate without fear. After 5 years of this, you've invested $120,000 plus returns. You probably have $150,000 in investments. After 10 years, you've invested $240,000 plus returns. You probably have $400,000. After 15 years, you're a millionaire. Not because you made $1 million, because you didn't spend the money you made. And that $1 million is working for you now, earning returns, compounding, building toward the day when you don't have to work at all if you don't want to. The transformation that happens when you reject lifestyle inflation isn't just about the money itself. It's about becoming the type of person who can't be manipulated by social pressure or advertising or their own ego. It's about developing the strength to live below your means even when you don't have to. It's about understanding that the appearance of success is a trap designed to keep you working forever, and choosing freedom over that appearance. Your coworkers might drive nicer cars. Your friends might live in trendier neighborhoods, but you'll have something they don't. You'll have a growing pile of investments that's giving you more options every single month. You'll have the ability to take a year off if you want, the ability to switch careers without fear, the ability to help family members who are struggling, the ability to retire decades before they do. That's worth more than any apartment upgrade or car lease, but you can't know that until you experience it. The next time you get a raise, you're going to face a choice. You can do what most people do, which is immediately upgrade your lifestyle to match your new income. Or you can do something radical. You can pretend the raise doesn't exist and invest it instead. One of those choices leads to looking more successful while staying on the same financial treadmill. The other leads to actual wealth and freedom. Most people choose the treadmill because it's easier and more socially acceptable, but you're not most people. At least, you don't have to be.